Gamers, Sunday is the must-pull of must-pull characters. He's the best support in the game. He will literally do everything you'll ever need for anything in your account. He's better than Robin. He's better than Ruame. He's better than everyone that's ever been released in the game before. He is the absolute best. Or at least that's what the Jing Yuan mains would want you to think. Oh, man. Look at this shit. Oh... yeah, Jing Yuan mains, you got some explaining to do here, big dogs. This one's a little bit different, brother, okay? Because despite what they say, I have some other views on Sunday, right? I think he's really good. Do I think he's perfect? No, I don't think he's perfect, but he's pretty damn close to it, right? So gamers, the first thing I want to touch on here is he is the master of hyper carry. And what do I mean by this, right? What I mean by this is literally what it says. He's the master of hyper carry-esque teams, because while a lot of characters we've been getting in the game are like kind of like jack of all trades, which he does have jack of all trade traits. Like he has traits that can work for other type of like damage types and damage sources and stuff like that. Overall, he's just a master of hyper carry, and he's kind of mediocre in other things. So let me go ahead and break this down for what I actually mean by this, right? Because I think he has three statuses, right? I think he has godlike status, I think he has amazing status, and then I also think he has a mess status as well, or a just okay status as well. So what do I think God status is? I think that's going to be summons, obviously, and I also think that's going to be a very hyper carry-esque team. So you can think of teams like Zila here, you can think of teams like Jingliu here, very hyper carry-esque teams. For summons, what do you guys think we can think of here, man? Oh man, with the Jing Yuan mains posted of my boy getting pregnant with Sunday's baby here. Anyways, yeah, so this is where his god tier status is at. This is where most of his ability is going to lie at. But he also is pretty good in some other things as well. And I want to mention this because people will say it's cope. I also think he can work in break teams as well. Now, when I say break teams, I mean certain break teams, specifically one break team, specifically Boot Hill. I think he works really good with Boot Hill. The reason I do think this is because, first of all, action advance really nice, and also energy as well, guys. So this means you can keep getting him back to the front to keep doing extra turns and doing extra damage, and on top of this, you're giving him extra energy to keep implanting that physical weakness upon enemies. So while you're not really getting much of a damage bonus for Boot Hill or anything like that, you're allowing him to act more times, meaning you can kill enemies faster. So this is going to make him amazing for those things. Where is he met at, guys? Actually, a lot more things than you would think. DOT, I think he's pretty meh for. General break teams, I think he's pretty meh for. He's also going to be pretty dog shit, I think, for dual DPS teams as well. So these are the things that he's usually good at, and these are the things he's bad at, right? Like, he doesn't fit in niche teams. So for this right here, guys, I would be giving this a pro and a con, just because he is really good for a lot of teams. Don't get me wrong. He is better than Bronya. He is better than Sparkle in just about every single way. Like, he is the GOAT for those things. But when it comes to the other teams, he's really not that good for those. So for that, this is a pro and a con, right? So it depends on really how you have your account built up. If you don't have Jing Yuan, Zila, Jingli, like if you don't have any of these crit-based damage dealers built up and you don't plan on pulling in 3.0, which we'll touch on later, then I don't think he's a pull in your account. I really don't think that he is going to be much worth it. But I can't cope and tell you guys that he's completely bad on these things, because outside of like the buffs he gives, right, which don't really work for everyone, he still does do action advance for one character, and he still does give energy for one character too. So that can't really be looked down upon, because you can still slot him in the teams and still have some type of support for those teams. So like teams where usually you would see Ting Yun act at, you won't be getting that attack buff obviously, but you will be getting the extra energy back to allies and stuff like that. His energy cost is higher, so just keep that in mind when you're doing that. Now, number 2, guys, is going to be Hyper Stack, and this kind of plays off of the point we touched on before, where, you know, he's really good for like these other teams we talked about, but also not very good for like dual DPS teams. That's one thing I really want to touch on here, because I think that this could be a pretty big con for him in the future. That being that if you have a hyperstack, what do I mean by hyperstack first of all, right? Hyperstack means that literally all buffs, all of the buffs you're doing, guys, is going on one character, right? And you have to put these buffs on one character to get the most benefit out of his kit, right? So I can quickly show you what I mean by this, right? By pulling up Sunday's little thing here, right? Obviously, we know his skill is going to be enabling one designated ally and their summon to get advance to the front and then get an increased damage boost. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what his ult does. Regenerates 20% energy on one designated ally character and makes them the Befitted. Now, guys, what is so special about being the Befitted is that you are getting a crit damage buff as well, and not only are you getting a crit damage buff, you're going to be getting a crit rate buff on them too from the talent. Not only are you getting that, you're giving them energy, and then also the biggest thing here, guys, is that you'll be refunding yourself a skill point whenever you're using a skill on the Befitted. So you're getting one extra skill point point back. So this means you can realistically not run him on dual DPS teams because he'll just become super SP inefficient, and you're missing out on all of these buffs here because you're not using everything on the befitted target, right? The problem with, guys, is that the ultimate move ties so many stats to the skill move on that one character that it really forces you into using them hyper carry, because if you're using this in a team-wide scenario, your other teammates are going to do dog shit damage and you really can't support them up like Sparkle or like Bronya can support them up even more, right? So this really does lock you into doing a hyper stack on one character. Why is this bad though? Why do I think this is a con? The prime example we've already seen, Dr. Ratio Claw, right? But with summons, the new class, the new Remembrance class, right? What happens when we start getting into dual DPS teams for this new summon class, right? He's kind of eliminated from contention from being used on really any of these teams now, because if you're running dual DPS, you really want more of an AoE DPSer, unless you have your dual DPS. The only exception to this rule would be if your dual DPS provided itself its own buffs, right? Like, if it was able to, like, self-sustain itself with its own buffs, then maybe it works, right? But overall, it's not going to work in those scenarios. That's why I think this is a big detractor for him, because whenever we get introduced with more stuff in the game that'll be allowing us to use dual DPS teams and comps, this really, he becomes more irrelevant, right? And that leads me into our final, I think, biggest pro here, guys. His kit is shattering, guys. If you're using him in those hyper carry scenarios, his kit is absolutely shattering. It's going to be giving a 30% damage boost to anyone that gets boosted up. Then it'll be giving an extra 50% damage bonus right here to anyone with a summon on the team. Not only this though, guys, it works just like Bronya, where it's going to be removing one debuff from the ally target. Now, this is people have a lot of misconceptions with this. This doesn't mean it's going to remove a CC off of your ally. This just means it's going to be dispelling one debuff from your ally. So let's say an enemy gets added into the game that has a fuck ton of debuffs, and maybe has a CC too. There's no guarantee that you remove that. It's going to dispel one debuff, so it could be a DOT, it could be a defense down, but it also could be that CC as well. Just want to let that be well known, okay? Because I think a lot of people misconstrue this with remove the CC on your ally. Not very true there. Trust me. But regardless of that, still has a CC removal on skill. Super nice. Gets 1 SP back whenever you have an ultimate on the ally. So what the ultimate does, guys, is give you energy. It's also going to be giving you a crit damage bonus. And not to mention his talent's going to be giving you a 20% crit rate bonus as well. So you're getting crit rate, crit damage, damage percentage, and then also energy as well. Literally what he is to me, guys, is what Yukong, Bronya, and Ting Yun all strive to be into one character. He's SP efficient, unlike Bronya. He gives energy to the team, like Ting Yun does, and then he's giving crit rate, crit damage bonus like Bronya and like Yukong both do. And that's not even talking about still everything he does. Like, he still gives guaranteed 40 energy here. He gets 25 energy at the start of his turn. Like, he's giving himself a lot of energy. His kit is absolutely insane. So, I mean, the Jing Yuan mains are glazing him up for a reason, okay, guys? But now I want to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to hop off this topic a little bit, and something I told you we talk about next, right? Which is going to be the Sunday versus Fugue compare. This is not going to be the full versus video. If you want to see a full versus video, guys, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because we do have a full versus video guide out on Ting Yun versus Sunday here, or Scuffed Day here, whatever you want to call them. But right now I want to compare value with him versus upcoming characters in the game compared to Fugue. And the two characters we know are upcoming are both this, and I guess Remembrance MC as well. First of all, without going into any leaks, I don't know necessarily what these characters do, surely. She is an Aeon. That's what we're assuming anyways, right? That she's an Aeon. So what I think that she's going to do with her being an Aeon is something very similar to what Acheron does with her being the Aeon, I think, of Anhility, right? And what she does with the Aeon of Anhility is that she plays off of having other Anhility characters on the team, and then also your other Anhility characters putting debuffs on enemy as well. So with her being an Aeon, what can I assume here? We already know that she's Erudition right here, and then also the ice type as well, right? So we know that she's both of those. So what can I assume from her kit? I'm going to assume that she is going to some way, shape, or form play with Erudition characters. So that means you'll probably need at least 1 to maybe 2 Erudition characters on the team. So if you're needing that on the team, it kind of eliminates some scenarios where he could be viable at, because like I said, he sucks ass at dual DPS. So I mean, if you're running her in a dual DPS scenario, then ew, cringe, stinky, that's going to be very, very cringe. Whereas her, on the other hand, I think she'll be better for dual DPS scenarios, but I also don't think that breaking should be very much of a thing here either. I mean, it could, right? But breaking, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's more of a Doom, in my opinion, that she's going to be a breaking-esque character, so I don't really know that how well that Fugue will play into the equation there. But we know the extra toughness bar she puts on the enemy could help, and she also provides super break as well. And we've seen in the past that some of these Year Edition characters can play into like a pseudo break role, like Himiko, for example. So maybe you put this Herta and Himiko on the same team together, and it still works pretty nice, and you can run them in a dual DPS break scenario. That's a scenario that I can see here. So maybe she works well here. I just don't see him working as well here if it's a dual DPS scenario. Now, if you're running her solo and she doesn't end up being like that, then I think that he helps out a lot more in that scenario. If it is a single target scenario, I do think he helps out a lot more on the Herta team if she ends up being like that. I just cannot see her being like that. So for what I'm thinking here is that she's going to need to be ran with multiple Year Edition characters, so you want more of a dual DPS support. That means you're running someone like a Fugue here, or maybe you're running someone like a Robin or a Ruan Mei here, which both provide like very AoE oriented buffs for your whole team. Maybe she can work with one of those. I just don't think that Sunday is going to be as viable for a Herta team. I think if you're looking for better overall value here, I think you pull for Fugue if you want to go for Herta, because I do think that she'll be more beneficial in that scenario there. I could be wrong on that, obviously, but that's just my thought process on that, because that leads me to our second point here, which is her, the new character, right, where she is the path of remembrance. She's also going to be imaginary as well, so I mean, typings already match over here, so you could run something like a Pinaconi set to get increased damage here too, or more increased damage anyways from the Pinaconi planner set from him over here. 5% energy regen, you add that over there, very, very nice. Something we were hoping for, surely. I do feel like that Remembrance MC will have some type of supporting role in the team to support her up in some way, shape, or form. They're releasing in the same patch. I don't think that they would do something to not help support her, considering it's a whole new path in the game. So I can see both of these characters supporting her up, and then you would run a sustain character as well, and then that would be the team right there. You're hyper carrying the fuck out of her. And for that reason, you know, she's going to be the first summon character we have in the game that really focuses on summons, right? Hey, Jing Yuan's Banes, it was nice while it lasted, but I think we have a new king coming to the game, Miss Aguila, whatever her name is. I don't know how to pronounce it. Don't even try me on it. But I do think that's the case over here. If you're planning to go for her, I think that Sunday would be the move here. And I also think that Sunday is going to be really good just for the 3.0 meta in general, right? Because I think that they are going to start stacking up some of these Remembrance characters, because we don't have very many of them in the game, and I think we're probably going to see a 4-star there. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more Remembrance characters come into the game, so I think that that could raise Sunday's value there as well. So overall, guys, what my thought process on this is if you're planning to pull for Herta and you want to pull for both patches, this patch and next patch, I think Fugue and Herta maybe go better together, and I think that maybe, just maybe, Sunday and then she goes better together as well. So that's my informed decision on that. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, gamers. Should you or should you not pull? How much value does Sunday really have? I don't think that he's necessarily a must pull. Oh, I know. I've been yapping him up. I've been glazing this man up to no avail, but I don't think he's a must pull. The reason I think that is because he's very nichified to a hyper carry team. If you run him outside of hyper carry teams, I think his value does drop significantly. If you're not running him with a Jing Yuan, if you're not running him with summon characters, if you're not running him, like I said, hyper carry-esque teams where you have full buffers on the team supporting 1 DPS, or a niche team, don't really think so. If your account's not structured in a way that you're really focused on this new meta coming to the game, if you do not care about the summon meta, if you don't plan on pulling many of these Remembrance characters, I think he's a no-go. I don't think you pull on him. If you do, I think he's an absolute 100% must pull for now. We don't have any dual DPS scenarios right now in the game for this new class. So I think you'll get a lot of value out of him running him on a lot of these different teams. And I think even if we do get into a dual DPS scenario where you can run characters in dual DPS, he can still be very strong for running like a hyper carry team with that set of character as well. So that is a reason why you should pull for him if you're planning to get the new characters in the new meta, right? If you're going the full Remembrance MC, if you're going the full Aguila, whatever her name is, route, I think he's an absolute must pull for your account. Overall, how much value do I think he holds if I were to put him on the tier list right now? If I were to rank him on the tier list right now, with everyone else here, where would I put him at? This might be a hot take. I saw someone's comment, I'm not gonna lie, and I actually kind of agree with their comment, guys. You guys might cope on me for this one. I think if we're talking in terms of how much he can do, I think he's up here. But I think in terms of the versatility he has, he's right here. Not going to lie to you guys. You guys might cope me out here. I don't think in terms of versatility, he can do what these characters can do. And I pride my channel on being like very free-to-play friendly and, you know, trying to do the best for free-to-play players. I don't think that he's going to be as versatile and as good for free-to-play players as Ruan Mei and Robin are. So, take that for what you will. I still think he's really, really good. I think that even Zhao Cho is more versatile than him, but his buffs are just so insane that it's kind of hard to pass up, right? So in terms of the buffs he gives, I think he's up here, right? I think in terms of the buffs he gives better buffs than these two characters. But in terms of versatility, he's down here. That's my opinion on that, guys. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you coped out, let me know you coped out in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on Sunday in the comment section down below as well. Did you agree? Did you disagree? I'll probably forget I said this, so yeah, maybe just remind me there. Anyways, guys, subscribe if you haven't already. That's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and make sure you subscribe for that versus video on Fugue versus Sunday. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it. See you later. Bye-bye.